everybody, Wayne Voles. Welcome back to our podcast channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about service agreements and how they can help your business. I know when I first started my business many years ago, we actually were utilizing a service agreement, not like we use today, but I knew even then at 17 years old, believe it or not, that we probably needed to do something to protect ourselves. And, you know, a lot of times when you look at service agreements, if you're going to utilize a service agreement or not, you look at it from the standpoint, well, I don't need to do that. You know, I trust my customers trust me, we got a good relationship. We give ourselves a lot of reasons why we don't need to use them. And quite honestly, I did that at first until my father sat down with me and explained to me from a business standpoint. And it's, you know, it sounds kind of crazy to say 17 years old and he's talking to me from a business perspective. He probably had the vision, I don't know, of where Wayne's Lawn Service was going. But certainly I really didn't at 17. To me, it was just a part-time job like a lot of people do in high school and college. You mow a few lawns, but you don't really look at it as a long-term profession and getting into the green industry. And I say that with all due respect. And I know there's you guys watching this video, some of you guys are probably even younger than 17 that are mowing some lawns, because I see it all the time on forums. And some of you guys are like me, been doing it 20, 30, 40 years. I know we're in our 40th year. So some of the things that I talk about, you may say, man, that doesn't apply to me. And that's okay. But I think some of it you're going to say, you know what, that does make pretty good sense. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of utilizing a service agreement. I know first of all, what you don't think about, or what I didn't think about, was the fact that I had to have a method to control cash flow. And I think that's where we look at our businesses a lot of times, and we're spring rich, summer poor, fall picks up again, and we're winter poor. You know, so it's a constant flux like this of, hey, we're doing pretty good. Our cash flow is pretty good. Man, in the summer, things slow down. Our cash flow is slowing down. In the fall, it picks back up because, you know, grass is growing good again. And we're probably doing some type of fall services, whether it's leaf removal or based on your company size, a lot of other things you may be doing. But then it slows back down again in the winter. So you got these constant flows. So how can we take all these ups and downs out of it? How can we make a more consistent cash flow? You know, to where it's never going to be a straight line. In 40 years, I've never been able to create a perfectly straight line because there are still some seasonal ups and downs. But utilizing a service agreement, what it will do for you is help take a lot of that peak valley out of that for you. But what you got to do yourself first is convince yourself that you and your company will benefit from utilizing a service agreement, number one. And then secondly, that it benefits your customer. And you think, well, how's it benefit my customer? There's no way my customer is going to sign a contract for mowing grass. You know, it's menial labor. Well, first of all, you got to ask yourself, do you perceive it as menial labor? And secondly, do you have the right client if they perceive the services that you're providing as menial labor? And I bring that up because that's actually what I had somebody tell me one time. This goes back many years ago, but I had a lady I was talking to about taking care of her property, mowing her yard for her. And she says, Wayne, I'm not going to sign a contract for mowing my yard. It's menial labor. And at first it kind of hurt my feelings just a little bit. You know, because, you know, our pride sits up there on our shoulder a whole lot, right? I mean, yours is probably the same way. You know, we don't like to get our feelings hurt, but we certainly get our feelings hurt a lot. But I had to think about that. I hadn't had anybody ever bring that up or call it menial labor. And I said, let me just ask you something, Miss Smith. If I'm mowing your yard out here today and I throw a rock or something comes out from underneath my mower and flies through your plate glass window and hits you or somebody inside, is it still menial labor? Or are you going to perceive me as a professional service and want me to have insurance to take care of what just happened? Think about that for a second. What do you think she said? I'll tell you honestly what she said. She said, Wayne, I've really never thought about it like that. She says, but the worst case scenario is my homeowners is going to have to pay for it. I wasn't expecting that answer. Certainly wasn't expecting that answer from her. But what I thought about then and what it helped me do right then, and this goes back many years ago, that turned all of a sudden I had an epiphany. Poof, light came on. That I was going after the wrong clientele. I had to redirect my focus on who I wanted as a customer. The little old lady on Social Security, and I say that with all due respect, I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion, but a lot of times, you know, the person on the fixed income, right? We've all heard that. I'm on a fixed income. Well, so am I. So are you, right? I draw the same check each week. You draw the same check each week. We're all on fixed incomes, or most of us are on fixed incomes, but they try to use that as a way to bring us down in pricing. And most of us will, as an industry, will allow that to bring that pricing down. My whole point of that is this. We can't allow our customers to run our companies. You've got to ask yourself one question. Who's running your company? Are you running it? Or are you letting your customers run it? And I realize there's a fine line for sure. You know, we got to have customers. But in 40 years of being in business, what I've learned also is that I've got customers, some of them have been with us one mow, some of them have been with us 25, 30 years. And everything in between. So although our customers are very, very important to us, we've got to do what's best for our company. And one thing that we can do to regulate cash flow is implement a service agreement with your customers. Because if you're going after the right clientele, a service agreement's not a hook. A service agreement just clearly defines for you what you're doing, how much you're going to get paid, when's your billing, when they're expected to pay, and what happens if they don't pay. It can be that simple. You know, there's a lot of templates that we have available that you can use. You don't have to rethink the will. But a lot of times you think of a service agreement, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a 3-page document or a 5-page document. No, it's single sheet, 8.5 by 11, covers all those items with your customer. And why is that good for your customer? That's what you got to ask yourself too. I'll tell you why it's good for your customer. Because then your customer knows the frequency of the service, right? Hey, well, if it's every week or every 10 days or once a month or once a year or whatever the frequency is, that your customer knows the frequency. They know the cost. They know when they're going to be billed, and they know how you want to be paid. It's just that simple. Another thing that it does for you is, it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. You can be in the Northeast or the Southwest or anywhere in between. The continental USA or Canada. There's times of the year when grass is growing more aggressively than it does in other times of the year, right? So if you've priced a cost per mowing out to somebody, I'm going to use $50. It could be anything. You fill in a blank with what you charge. But if you're charging Miss Smith $50 to cut her lawn, and you go and cut her lawn in the spring and it's been raining and it's wet and, you know, you got to double cut it. You ever had to double cut a yard? And then you got to blow it. And then you maybe even have to cut it again just to get it to look right because it's that high when you get there, right? And it's wet. And she pays you $50 and you leave. But in July or August, when the rain slowed down and the growth of the grass has slowed down, and a lot of you guys probably know this, but most markets you get at least 35% of the growth in the first part of the season. first couple months, we're getting 35% of the growth of most species of grasses. Okay, so that means when we're starting out as an industry, we're putting a whole lot more time and effort and labor and expense into getting it done, and our customers pay for it. But when we get to July or August, have you ever rode up on somebody's yard and as soon as you park and you're unloading your lawnmower and they open their front door and they come out and they're like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, what are you doing here today? You think it needs to be cut? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's not as bad as it was in the spring, but I don't remember you coming out here in the spring when I was having to double and triple cut it and you offered me more money. Have you ever had that happen? I've literally talked to thousands of contractors across the United States and Canada, and I've only had a couple people say, yeah, somebody's actually come up and given me more money. So I think when we look at it as a percentage, most of us aren't getting paid more in the spring by our customers, but they're the same customers that want to run out in the summertime when the grass slows down and say, hey, don't mow today, come back in a week. Now, the problem with that's what? Think about it a minute. What's the problem with that? I've got a million things going on in my mind right now, and we're only going to talk about a few of them. But one of the biggest problems with it is scheduling. You know, come back next week or come back in a few days. I'm in a different, even as a very small company, you're in a different area in a few days. So now if that's a Tuesday yard and you got to come back on Friday to cut it, and you're over on the other side of town on Friday, and you come back to mow this yard on the Tuesday yard on Friday, the drive time that you've wasted has eaten that profit up on that yard. So you're off route. It's messed up your cash flow. Now it's this Friday, so that means you got to go from Friday to the next Tuesday. The routing becomes a big pain, not to mention the cash flow that's been disrupted. So I'm not saying that you utilize a service agreement to rob anybody, because what you do with your service agreement, you predetermine the frequency with the client based on if they have irrigation already. You know, if somebody doesn't have irrigation, they're not having a lawn service, you know, whether it's you or somebody else that's treating their yard, fertilizing their lawn, and you know that, hey, you know, I'm not going to need to be here every week in the summer. I can go to an every 10-day cycle. You arrange that with the customer going in, so you know, let's just say this is the spring of the year, you know, and you're talking to a new client. Hey, we're going to need to mow this weekly, June, July, and August. We can go to an every 10-day cut, September, whatever. We'll pick back up on a weekly basis, taking care of your leaves for you. So you've got that frequency set up. Your customer knows what the frequency is, and then they're not coming out, whoa, 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 don't mow, because you're not going to be there to mow. You're going to change that frequency up, reroute your trucks yourself, and rather than having your customers to reroute your trucks. So that's one of the huge advantages. Your routing doesn't get messed up. You go by and you provide a service. We all know a lot of times in the summer, we don't need to go out and provide a weekly service to a lot of lawns just because they're not irrigated, they're not fertilized, they're not on any type of lawn programs. You know, if that's the customer you've got, set a program around that customer. Or you go out and you look for a better clientele that is having their lawns treated, whether it's you or somebody else. They do have irrigation, somebody that's going to need your service on a weekly basis. But regardless of what the frequency is, know that you need to have a service agreement in place. Take the number of services that you've got. Let's say it's in our market here in Louisville, Kentucky, we sell 37 services, 37 weekly services. Everybody's market's a little different, but don't undersell yourself is what I'm getting at too. Figure out what the frequency is. You know what the cost is. So let's say it's in our market 37. Let's just say we're charging $10 to make it easy. We take 37 times 10, divide it by 9 months, March through November, right? They pay an equal payment March through November. So in the spring, when we're out there in April and May and grass is growing like crazy, they're paying the same monthly rate that they're paying in August and July when grass is slowed down and we're faster. at getting the work done. So it's a win-win for everybody. We invest the time and the effort and the expense early on, and then we make it back as the company in the summer. And that's the way you explain it to your customer, that, hey, you're winning up front, if you want to look at it as a win-lose situation. And then in the summer, when things slow down, then we're making back up the extra that we put in the spring for you. I think your customers will like you better. Not better as a person, but the better business mindset to that. And I'll tell you why. Think of yourself. We all like to know what something's going to cost, right? You ever build somebody that's on a per cut basis, for an example, and you bill them because there's 5 Tuesdays in this month, let's say, and you bill them for 5, and they call you up and say, Wayne, I got a bill for 5 services, man. There's 4 weeks in a month. Well, no, but there were 5 Tuesdays. Oh, yeah, that's right. It eliminates all that. Eliminate the trials and tribulations of 3 cuts some months, 4 cuts some months, 5 cuts some months. Average it out over the course of your season. Divide it into 8 or 9 or 12 equal payments, however you want to set it up based on your market. It generates better cash flow for you, creates less phone calls for you from your customers, and certainly nobody is running out the door saying, don't mow, don't mow, don't mow. You're not being ran away because they know exactly what that invoice is going to be. You go provide a service. We call them services, not mowings. We go do what needs to be done to the client's yard in the summer. If front and back needs to be mowed because they're irrigated or we're getting rain, that's what's done. If the front needs to be mowed or the back needs to be mowed, bed maintenance, whatever it is, we keep the yard looking professional. Now, when I say bed maintenance, I don't mean we're trimming hedges for what we're charging to mow the grass. But it's a trade-off of time, basically, is what it amounts to with us and our customers. And I think if you implement it, you'll find the same result that we did, that your customers like it, you'll like it from a cash flow standpoint, and I'll tell you who else likes it. Who you think that is? The banks like it. Because when we need to go buy equipment, or we need to buy a truck, or we need some operating capital for whatever it is we're looking for, and you go try and you approach your banker, they understand cash flow. And when they look at the lawn services that are kind of stereotyped anyway, because we're not the best business minds in the world in most cases, or a lot of cases, okay? When you tell them, hey, I've got 50 accounts or 100 accounts or 500 accounts, whatever it is, and they're all on a contract with us, contracts to a bank mean cash flow, and it means that's your ability to pay. But if you walk in there and say, I've got 50 customers or 100 customers, and they're all on a shake of the hand, the first question they're going to have is, what happens if we have a drought? How are you going to pay it? So you've got a methodology in place for borrowing money. If you need to borrow for expansion or whatever, you want to buy a truck or whatever it is you need to do, the bank's going to appreciate that. And certainly, last but not least, all businesses normally end up being sold. And the value of your company with a contract is greater than the value of a company without one. Utilize a service agreement. Understand why it's good for you and your customer. Sell it that way, and you'll be more profitable, you'll be more successful, and you'll scale your business much faster. Remember, profit's not a dirty word.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave us a comment below and we will get back to you soon. If you aren't already, please subscribe to our channel. Also, go like our Facebook page where you can interact with us and the whole Profits Unlimited community. Check out our great website with all of our 100% money-back guaranteed products at profitsorus.com. And remember, stay tuned for the latest and greatest content from us at Profits Unlimited.